their brains.
No, although, I mean, you know about the waggle dance, right?
Well, yeah.
So this is a way that bees communicate the presence of pollen to each other. So a bee will go into a hive having found a source of pollen and will basically wiggle their bum for a particular amount of time in a particular direction to essentially communicate to the other bees the direction perpendicular to the sun, I think it is, that they have to travel in order to find this pollen. And they tested this, by the way, that, initially people were like, oh, they're just doing a little weird dance. And then people were like, maybe they're communicating it, but are they communicating it relative to where the bee is, or is it relative to the hive? They weren't sure. They got one bee, the one who's sort of communicating the dance, and they put a little like eye patch on her so that she couldn't see where she was relative to the sun. Yeah. And then for the rest of the bees, they put in a big bright light to sort of mimic the sun. And they managed essentially to make it so that she accidentally communicated the wrong directions, and all of these bees went off to some pollen that wasn't there.
Wow, so that is also pretty impressive. Their brains are good, but their brains have very few neurons compared to other critters on this planet. So it's incredible what you can do with so few brain cells.
Totally. So going back to this question, this idea of whether you can build a bee computer, right? Whether you can build a universal Turing machine. I should just say, for anyone who hasn't come across this phrase of a universal Turing machine, this is one of many of Turing's really great insights. So this is way before computers are invented. And Turing comes up with this idea for a theoretical computer. It's like an imaginary computer. And it has this tape of infinite length, and it's divided into these little squares. And what the computer does, it reads a square, follows a rule to either change what's there or keep it the same as it was. And then it can move left and right? And the idea is that given enough time and infinite tape, then this imaginary computer can solve any mathematical problem. So I don't know. I personally think that Turing machines are, they're a bit abstract. So I have an example of how you could do addition with a Turing machine, like a really, really simple example.
Yeah, let's try this, and then we'll see how bees could become involved.
How bees could do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could have it where I could take you and give you an eye mask with just like a tiny little slit in it so that you can only see what's immediately in front of you. Mm-hmm. So you can be the rule machine, all right? And I can give you a very clear rule about what to do. But in front of you, I'm going to lay out a series of plates. This is my infinite tape, right? And each plate is either going to have a penny on it or it's not. And that's it. And you're sitting at this chair and you can see only one plate at a time. All right? I've given you like blinkers. That's all you're allowed to see. Okay. Now, I'm going to set it up so that you can do addition of 3 plus 2 without you ever needing to understand what addition is, what your task is, or the output of what you're achieving.
Okay, and you'll do this by just giving me a rule to follow.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm going to set it up so that I have, in this long line of plates, they're all empty, apart from 3, and then a space, and then 2. And that's it. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're coming up to you now, right? They're sort of on this train, they're sort of coming up to you. And your job is, if you see a penny, you just move the plate to the right. Okay? If you look down, see a penny, move the plate to the right. Go to the next one. See a penny, move the plate to the right. So you do that. You're at the beginning of the run, and you do that 3 times. Okay? All the 3 pennies are to your right. Now, when you see an empty plate, the rule is you have to put a penny on it, move the plate to the right, and then switch to the next rule. Okay?
Okay.
So now there's 4 pennies, 4 plates with pennies to your right.
Yeah.
And you're on the next rule, which is if you see a penny, you keep moving right. But when you finally hit an empty plate at the end of the line, you go back 1 plate to the left, take that penny away, and stop.
So, okay. So in this example, we wind up with 5 pennies
in a row
to my right, which is 3 plus 2.
Exactly. You, without ever knowing that you're doing addition, without ever understanding anything that you're doing, you have managed to just successfully complete an additive task.
I feel like bees could easily follow rules that simple.
They could follow rules, But what bees can't do, so bees could read the penny, they could move things to the right, or they could move through a system.
Yeah.
But what they can't do is write. They can't add the penny. So for a universal Turing machine, what you need to be able to do is you've got to be able to put a symbol down, move away, and then come back to it later as though it's a stored variable. Now, I should just say, to like close this loop on the universal Turing machine thing, the reason why this idea was so profound, that example of pennies, I mean, whatever, it's a really simplified example. But the key point about this is that after Turing, someone came along called John von Neumann, and he was like, okay, I see this. Because the idea about a universal Turing machine is that if you have enough time, it can compute anything that is computable. Anything. So John von Neumann saw this and was like, I think there's a way to make this actually happen. So he built this architecture, and that is the basis of all modern computers, right? Like, this is the origins of everything we've built our entire modern world on. This stupid example of the pennies. Like, honestly, at the heart of it, this stuff is so absurdly simple.
Yeah.
It's just when you build up and build it up and build it up. And this is the thing about how people say computers don't know what they're doing. They don't understand what they're manipulating because they're the same as you with the eye mask on and the pennies, right? You're just like performing this task.
I don't know that I'm adding pennies. I'm just following some rules.
Exactly. So this is the thing, right? I think that bees could not be a universal Turing machine, right? Because they can't write, they can't place down the pennies. However, that doesn't mean that there are no biological objects that could be, because there was in 2011 a team of researchers. This is from a Japanese university and an English university, so Kobe University and the University of West England, right? And they decided they wanted to build a functioning computer logic gate using animals, right? No animals were harmed or hurt in the process of this experiment. So they worked out, or they noticed, I guess, that there's this species called the soldier crab. And the soldier crab, most crabs, obviously scuttle sideways, then kind of hang around alone. Soldier crabs, they live in these lagoons, and they move in like really tightly packed swarms. And when two swarms of soldier crabs collide, they don't sort of fight and they don't scatter. They actually act a bit like soft billiard balls. They sort of combine and then they move together in this giant swarm. Mm-hmm. So scientists worked out that you could basically build an and gate, a not gate, and an or gate, right? Which is one of the rules that we were describing about computers, this sort of von Neumann architecture and so on. It's based on this idea of like you get two bursts of electrical current that come through, and it's like two inputs. It's like either both together, an and gate, either one of them the or gate or a not gate. So they built these mazes, these Y-shaped mazes or these X-shaped mazes, and then sent crabs through these mazes, and they combined in the ways that you wanted from these logic gates. So in theory, I mean, they demonstrated that it worked with like one logic gate. In theory, then, you could build a crab computer, a crab-puter, if you will.
Yeah. So you set up the groups with your question. You let them go. They just do their crab thing, combining into groups or not, and then out at the other end of the maze is your output, which is your answer. And not a single crab, none of those crabs knew what they were doing. So, I mean, this raises the question of like, is that what life on Earth is? Maybe the original, bacterial mats were placed here in a specific position by aliens, and they're like, look, give it 5-6 billion years, we'll come back and we'll get our answer. And we are all, with our own psychologies, we're just following the rules the aliens knew would happen, and we're doing their homework for them. I
mean, this is like a massive philosophical question of the ages. There's this giant debate that's going on about whether human brains are approximate Turing machines or not. Because the implication of that is that, are we actually computing everything? Is there something going on in our brains where it's just computation, and this feeling of consciousness, this feeling of being, is a direct result of computation? Or is there something else going on? Like, is this experience of being in this room, talking to you, feeling the light on my face, is that just computation? And at the base level of computation, there's the neurons have no idea what they're doing? Or is there something extra, something sort of magical on top? I should tell you that I worked it out that, of course, if a byte requires 8 logic gates, right? A logic gate, by the way, required about 80 crabs in this experiment.
Oh, okay.
So
that's good to know.
If you were going to do like a 1 gigabyte iPhone update, you'd require 640 billion crabs.
That's less than I expected. I thought the number would be some number name that no one ever says.
I mean,
it's in the billions.
for 1 gigabyte.
For 1 gigabyte. I mean, gosh, a gigabyte is a lot. Like, maybe this is coming from a guy who's old enough that I remember, getting a memory drive that had 100 megabytes on it and being like, whoa.
It's the future.
So many MP3s. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. But hey, who knows, right? Let's say in theory you got these billions and trillions and squillions of crabs, and then you put them in this setup and let them kind of compute stuff. Would the collective end up having consciousness as an emergent property? I mean, who knows?
Well, I mean, this is a topic for a future episode because I've been thinking a lot about it. Up until a week ago, I was very much like, yes, it must emerge somehow. You get a big enough complex thing, and it's gonna start thinking, you know what? I'm feeling this, and I'm doing this. I exist. I have a self. And I'm starting to not believe that so much now. I'm starting to wonder if experiences, phenomenons, like feelings, are just part of the universe, like electromagnetism and gravity. Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about panpsychism here?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. All right, okay. Stop what you're doing, everyone. We need to do an episode of panpsychism.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm ready yet for it, but I'm just feeling like when you really lay down what I believe and what I think we know well, there's only a few conclusions, and it just seems a lot more elegant. It doesn't mean it's true.
I should tell you, I've switched, by the way, and probably actually also definitely within the last month, I've switched. I think I used to think that consciousness wasn't an emergent property of complexity or intelligence, if you will, but that it was a property that came from evolution. And now I think I might change my mind.
I worked really hard for years on consciousness. Clearly came about through evolution. How is it fit? But the problem is, I just don't think that it's fit. I don't believe that a phenomenal zombie version of us would be any different.
Brian, look what you've done.
Whether agriculture helps feed you, or it helps feed you and makes you feel good, doesn't change whether you do it or not.
All right, we're going to park this one because there is. I'm conscious that we've already gone through Turing machines, the evolution of consciousness, sort of infinite hard drives, and Brian just wanted to do a cute limerick.
I know, Hannah. I was really. totally shocked by where this went. I'm like, oh, she's going to tell us a story about bees, and then, we'll move on to another question. And instead, you're like, why do I exist?
Should we go on to another question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here's what I've noticed, Michael. We originally were like, we'll just do half an episode a week on questions. We'll just quickly, bam, 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 quick fire. Turns out, all these questions that people are asking us, they're like episodes in themselves.
We don't get questions like, hey, how long could a rabbit live? We don't get Googleable questions.
Okay, this is from Gabo Lakota. Do languages and also accents shape facial features through the muscles they make us use and therefore give us subtle but unique characteristics?
I love this question because we don't totally know, and yet it feels like it could be true, and yet many people believe that it's completely ridiculous. That the language you speak changes the way your face looks. Now, on the surface of it, sure, right? Like I'm using my lips and my cheeks and my tongue and my jaw to make noises. And so if I'm speaking one language or another my whole life, isn't that gonna change the musculature of my skull? Now, here's some things that I found. First of all, it is pretty easy to get a computer to guess what language someone is speaking just by looking at their face. Even just their cheeks and eyes. You can easily tell if a language is tonal or not by how people are moving their facial muscles. There's also an interesting little fact about this language called Ko. Ko was a Tu language from South Africa. Mm-hmm. And there was a linguist named Anthony Trail who learned it. And he learned this language, and he spoke it for a long time, and he developed a bump on his larynx. Because of the sounds in this language, I don't know how this comes about, but biologically, it did cause a growth on the larynx. And all the adult speakers of the language Ko have this bump. The children don't, because they haven't spoken the language long enough to have developed the bump. But this South African white guy, Anthony Trail, I don't actually know the color of his skin, but the point is that he was not a native who learned Ko as his first language. He developed this bump as well.
What does Ko sound like? Do you know?
I don't know. I love how it's spelled, though. Exclamation point, capital X, O with a mark above it that's diagonal, and then O with a tilde above it. Ko.
Oh.
It's a language that might actually have the largest number of phonemes of any language in the world, where a phoneme are the perceptually different speech sounds in a language.
Wow. Oh, it's one with lots of click consonants.
It's got the clicks. It's got... And here's the thing that I also found. There are a lot of phonemes, like language sounds, that are very common, like the the sound of the letter M, or the sounds of the vowel A, A. We see those a lot, but there are some that we don't see as often, and they seem to potentially correlate with certain lifestyles. So there are some sounds called labiodental sounds, and it is what it sounds like. It's the lips and the teeth. So the V sound and the F sound, where I've got my lower lip hitting my teeth. There's a theory out there that those sounds didn't emerge in human languages until we were eating soft enough foods. And it is true that if you look at cultures around the world, tribal cultures especially that eat unmilled grains, their teeth are more flat in the front. And I'm not sure how this works, I'm not an orthodontist, but they don't have their front teeth ahead of their bottom teeth, making the labiodental noises, the B's and the F's, harder to do or just not more natural.
Because if you run through the alphabet, actually you don't touch your lips very often at all. Hang on, let me just work it out. I think there's only three, possibly 4 letters where you actually touch your lips together, right? B, M, P, and W.
The sound of W is like your lips are just teasing each other. They're not totally touching. Ma. If they touch, it's an M sound. Ma, wa.
I found that very surprising when I learned that fact, because I think you sort of imagine that your lips are together all the time during speech, but actually it's a really small fraction of the letters that you're using.
Oh man, there's even like a little riddle about this where it's like, what is different about these two sentences? And it's whether or not your lips touch during them. Anyway, I was really intrigued by this question, and I was amazed that I wasn't amazed, but I was even more interested when I found that we are kind of dancing around trying to answer the question, because I also feel like people, even in the mid 20th century, like in the 50s, their just faces looked different. And I'm like, yeah. Was it because they were talking different their whole lives? What I mean is when I see an actual photo from like 1957 of people, I go, I believe it. But when a really great art designer and costume and makeup department recreates the 50s and they use the exact camera that would have been used back then, I still feel like I look at it and I'm like, I can tell that those people aren't really from the 50s. So I latched onto this question and the research I found by going, I think maybe the facial musculature could have been different because their accents, their dialects were a little bit different. The words and the vocabulary they used day to day was different. As it turns out, maybe not. A lot of like researchers who actually are in this field say most of those facial differences purely come from grooming, style, and diet that changes over time. But this is something that I want to do a lot more research on because it's a whole thing. The idea that you put Timothée Chalamet in a movie set in the past and that no one believes that he's from the past. Because why? They say he's got iPhone face. They say his face looks like a face that has seen an iPhone. And you can't put your finger on exactly why, but it does not look like it belongs 200 years in the past.
iPhone face.
And I kind of get it. And then you watch like Carl Malden in some older movie and you're like, that guy, that face doesn't exist anymore. That is a face from a generation or two ago. Now, I don't know what to make of all of these feelings and observations, but I think even language and what we say plays a role in it.
I think you're right that it's like, even if, well, the world needs a lot more research to really be able to tell for sure, but I think mechanistically, I think I can see why this might be the case. I sort of believe that there's a path that might cause this. I found your riddle, by the way. Is it this one? When you say the word touch, your lips don't touch, but when you say the word separate, they do.
The way it works is that you play this game with people where they just say words or you say words and you say whether they touch or not. You'll say, lemons touch, oranges don't touch. And the person tries to guess what the commonality is. Why do lemons touch? Is it because they're like acidic? And you're like, nope, that's not it. And they go, okay, what about bananas? And you're like, bananas touch. And they go, okay, what about doors? And you say doors don't touch. And they're trying to figure out the rule that separates the touching from the not touching. And it turns out to be whether or not your lips touch when you say the word. And it takes, like, in some cases, hours for someone to figure it out. Usually they don't.
Monkeys touch, but gorillas don't.
Yes, exactly. That's the game. It's a fun game to play with someone.
Oh, this is going to infuriate everybody who knows me over the course of the following week. That's excellent.
What I love about it is that psychologically it's such a great demonstration of how little attention we pay to the physicality of word and speech production with our lips and tongue. Because people sit there going, apples touch, oranges don't, and they cannot figure out what touching means in that context. But if you know the rule, you're like, how do you not get it? It's so obvious. Then I started thinking, it wasn't even that long of a break, but I started thinking about touching and how when you touch yourself, you can actually change which hand is doing the touching and which is being touched. You can switch in your mind which one is touching and which one isn't.
That game reminds me of a drinking game that I played once at university. My friend introduced it to everybody, and by the end we all wanted to punch him because none of us could work it out. And it was that he would say a sentence and the rule was whether he started with an That was it.
Oh, wow. And I bet it took all night.
Honestly, all night. None of us noticed. It was infuriating. and I really noticed this actually, that with all of my years of training of being working on the BBC, I am so unbelievably sensitive to people starting sentences with "so." But I think almost nobody else in the world notices it.
I know what you're talking about because there's a game called You Can't Say and I played it over Thanksgiving with my family. And also as like someone who presents a lot and writes scripts a lot, I'm very aware of what words I'm saying. And it was like trivially easy for me to not say certain words. But like everyone else in my family like struggled so much to not say or and I just was like, aren't you aware of it right before you say it? It's like, So I think these are all skills that you can learn. Just like once you know that touching means lips touching, you immediately get it and you hear it all the time during the game.
Yeah. I still say like too much, but hey, that's my Essex background. All right, let's see what you got for me today, Michael.
Okay, well, I got a couple of things. One actually came from a viewer, and I wanted to talk with you about it. So a listener named Michael Rourke, who by the way, makes it clear that he's a Michael and not a Mike, just like me. I've never felt like a Mike. There's a guy I met. I'm not going to give too many details, but he calls me Mike. And I'm like, you don't know my soul at all, dude. Okay.
I feel the same whenever anyone accidentally calls me Han. There's something inside me that just
Han.
Han. Oh, no.
I'm sure you get a lot of Hannah Banana.
Not if I can help it.
Not if you can. Okay, maybe.
It only happens once, Mike. Okay.
My daughter calls you the Fry person.
Yeah, I like that.
She's really stuck on the fact that your last name is Fry, and that's who you are.
Oh, I like her.
So anyway, we did an episode about time and about how the calendar and the numbering system for the years came about. Well, Michael Rourke emailed us a Holocene calendar that he put together himself. So the Holocene calendar starts with 0, not at the birth of Christ, but at the beginning of the Holocene era. Okay, so what does that mean? Geologically, it means the end of what we call the Ice Age. Okay, when Earth started warming up again, suddenly there's, we don't know a lot about what it was like back then, but this was a major turning point in human history, but also the history of Earth. So it's kind of perfect. It's like both geological and anthropological. Anyway, this happened, 10,000 or a few more years ago. And if you count that as 0, it makes it easier to talk about human history because you're not having to deal with BC, AD, or BCE and CE. And of course, our current system doesn't even have a year 0. So it's really hard to calculate ages and stuff that span that gap. And I personally, I've talked about this before, one of my biggest pet peeves is the way BC numbers work. And when people say things like, well, in the first millennium BC, my brain always goes, first millennia BC means 1000 BC, but it doesn't. It means everything before that because the first 1,000 years of BC mean as you go backwards from 0, the first 1,000 years you hit. So 200 BC, 12 BC, 900 BC, that's the first millennia BC. The second millennia BC is the 1000 BCs. Oh, I hate it. Whereas the Holocene calendar allows you to just say
the year 8040 whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So pottery was invented in the year 2000. There you go. Because 0 is whatever 12,000 years ago. To convert the current year to the Holocene calendar, you just add 10,000. So right now, it is the year 12,026.
Hey, we missed the great 10,000th anniversary of pottery.
I know, we did. 26 years ago, pottery turned 10,000. And I forgot to get it anything. I was going to get it this really cool clay pot, and I thought, oh, shoot, that's you. But anyway, Michael Rourke, let me read you. He sent this email in about how we mentioned the Holocene calendar in that video, and he thought, man, this perspective is so cool. He wanted to visualize it, and so he put together a website. We'll link it here, where you've got the entire Holocene era and notable events from it. both from a standpoint of politics, science, all these different events, and you can scroll through it and see how close together they are or how far apart they are. You can even change how many pixels there are between every year, so you can crunch everything together or spread it out. But I actually had a hard time finding anything like this because I would love to be able to say things like, well, yeah, Jesus was crucified in the year 10,030. Like that, it's just more clear. I'd love to be able to say things like the Mayflower landed in 11,620. Now that's a big number, I get it, but it's better for BC things.
But also I think what this does is it just puts ourselves in a better perspective of our history and our ancestors. I think it connects us to the past in just a really different way, because all of a sudden then, I don't know, people going on about the Second World War and like political agreements after it, it was such a long time ago and whatever. It's like when you put it on this scale, no, it really wasn't. It really wasn't.
I know exactly. If you have to talk about the 40s versus the 90s, it sounds like they're two different universes. But if you talk about events that happened in 11,945 and 11,990, it sounds like they're really the same. And that better fits the actual scale of human history. I love saying like, oh yeah, the Great Wall was constructed in the 9700s. And I don't have to use BC, because I think saying BC makes it almost sound like in fictional times. Like it's a different world, but it's not. It's still the world that we are reacting to and living in many ways. I mean, we're still in the Stone Age. Look how much concrete we use every year. Give me a break.
Also, copper smelting, 4,500. That just makes way more sense to me.
Yeah, in the 11,300s, Black Death time, not good.
But only a blip when you consider the history back to the beginning of the Holocene era.
And then in the 11,500s, we've got Galileo. We've got Shakespeare. I think people might be annoyed if I use this more often, but I really want to use it, especially because, like I said, I've been doing a lot of research on how consciousness has changed over time as potentially revealed through the literature humans have written. And I hate that there was obviously such a change in the first millennia BC and the second. And I'm having to talk about BC and thousands of years ago. And I want to be able to just say, look, let me give these all positive integers. And then it's easier.
I tell you what this really does, just scrolling through it, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm so impressed that he coded this over his Christmas break as well. But what this really, really hammers home for me is just the sort of exponential acceleration of progress and technology. Because this thing, nothing happens for such a long time. And then they start popping up, events start popping up, pottery, copper smelting, domestication of the horse, the sort of the Bronze Age, ancient Egypt, and so on and so on and so on. And then they start picking up around the turn of when the Romans come to be. But then you get into the modern era, and it is like bam, 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 bam. I mean, absolutely constant. These extraordinary moments, civilization-changing moments happening, literally all of the time.
That's right. And it really makes me reflect on the difference between things happening and civilization-relevant things happening. Because, of course, between the domestication of the dog and pottery, a lot of stuff happened. People lied to each other, they fell in love, they had children, they lost loved ones. But the stuff that makes it onto a timeline like this is the civilization, technology-based stuff. It's pottery, it's the kings and the battles, it's the construction of stuff, it's the moon landing, it's vaccines. And of course, as those become more relevant to what it means to be human, we're like, oh, there's so many now. But gosh, imagine if you lived at the beginning of the Holocene, where nothing ever happened. There were no moon landings, there was no AI, there was no Super Bowl every year. But it's like, wow, that's a very biased way of thinking.
Yeah, because you're missing the heartbeats of individual human lives.
And of course, writing only existed around 3000 BC. So there's a lot of prehistory here where the majority of humans live that we just don't have records of. Writing has only been around since 3000 BC. We've only had written stuff for 5,000 years.
It's not true.
Yeah. So to put this in the Holocene calendar, we're talking about, like, writing didn't exist until the 7000s. But humans had been around, living in settlements, participating in agriculture had been happening for 7,000 years before they were like, oh, dude, let's like write down, how much oil you owe me.
That's incredible.
And from there, we see the emergence of history as we know it. That's what history is. It's written accounts.
What about art? Did art, like the cave paintings, when were those? I mean, that's all the way through this, right? All the way through this, there were some forms of art in paintings and...
Oh, yeah, I mean, art predates the Holocene. I mean, depending on how you define art, there's human-made artworks that seem to just exist for their aesthetic value, potentially, long before the Ice Age even ended. I mean, humans were around, like anatomically, behaviorally modern humans were around before the Ice Age ended. But as the Ice Age ended, it's pretty cool. I mean, so much of this is speculative, but it was quick. Ice melted. Glaciers retreated really quickly. Like within 50 years, oceans rose to a point where it was like, okay, we've got to move our settlement. And that could have spawned agriculture. In fact, a lot of that rising sea level at that time could also explain ancient flood myths and where they came from, that they really were in oral traditions, that they were being shared as like, oh, I've always heard that there was this flood. And that may have been true.
Like Noah's Ark, for example.
Noah's Ark, Gilgamesh. We see these flood myths all over the place, and they may have, when they were first written down, they may have been the result of a long, multi-millennia game of telephone. It reminded me of this book. I wanted to leave you with some things from this book. It's called If. And it's a great book for kids, actually, but it's good for everybody. A mind-bending new way at looking at big ideas and numbers. It's full of wonderful illustrations and visualizations of time and money and population. So here's the page on life on Earth. And it breaks down life on Earth into, say, like 1 hour. Okay? If the whole story of life on Earth was all condensed into just 1 hour, when would things happen? So let's just say that it's compressed into the hour between noon and 1. Okay, so noon is when the very first life forms, like one-celled organisms appear, like bacteria. And 1 o'clock is today, this very moment that I'm talking. Okay, so here's what happens. First life forms form within that first second, but it's not until 12:51 that fish appear on Earth. The dinosaurs arrive at 12:56, and they only exist for 3 minutes. And then mammals appear at about 56 minutes and 25 seconds. The earliest birds appear at 12:58, 2 minutes until today. And modern humans, the ones that we're related to, that are like biologically and anatomically modern, they show up at 12:59 and 59.8 seconds.
No!
0.2 of a second before right now.
But hold on a second, that's still way before even the beginning of this calendar, right?
Yes, I know.
Wow. It's nothing.
And then here's something that's not related to time. Well, it's not related to history so much as it's related to your life. There's a page about if your life was a pizza. Here we go. Okay, so if your life was a pizza, cut into 12 slices, here's what all those slices could represent. 4 of them would be the time that you spend in school or at work. Another 4 of them would be the time that you spend getting ready to and sleeping. Getting ready to sleep and sleeping. So you spend 4 of your slices sleeping, 4 of them at work. That's already 8 of the 12. 1 slice would be spent shopping, caring for others, and doing things around the home. 1 slice would be spent traveling, whether it be to school, on errands, on holidays. 1 slice would be the time that you spend preparing food and eating. And that final 12th slice would be the time that you spend on leisure activities, whether that's recreation, exercise, games, surfing the internet. Wow. And that's your life as a pizza.
There's a book by Oliver Burke, 4,000 Weeks. Essentially says the average human life is 4,000 weeks long.
Yep.
and talks about how that should change your perspective of what you want to do with it, you know?
I should check that out because I think about
really
that
good.
a lot. I think about 4,000 weeks means that I only get in my life 4,000 Saturdays.
Yeah.
And then it starts shrinking as you start to say, well, but how many rainy Saturdays am I going to get? How many rainy Saturdays with my daughter am I going to get? And the number becomes magnificently small.
It really does. I think especially when you think about, let's say, if you have parents who are around, you know, and you've left home already, once you start counting the number of times that you have left when you're going to get to spend really good time with them, really good quality time, exactly as you said, it's vanishingly, terrifyingly small.
I know.
It's a good exercise though, you know. I think it's so easy to go through life seeing the little bubble that you're in. But I think that stuff like this, like Michael has built, of understanding the context of your life, your human life, in the much bigger picture of who we are and where we've come from, how it's so much bigger than you. And then looking at things like your if book, of understanding what you have for yourself in the context of what you have left. I think it's a really useful exercise to do.
I know. It makes you think so many things. Like, gosh, if I spend a third of my life sleeping, which we all do, about a third of our life is spent sleeping, then I'm not 40. I'm 26. That's how much life experience I actually have.
Are we counting the travelling time? I'm happy to keep the sleep bit. I just want to get rid of the travelling bit. That's the bit that's the most painful.
Yeah, right? I mean, but at the same time, traveling can be worth it. You know, if you're traveling with people or even traveling by yourself and it gives you time to think through something. Maybe it's worth having a slice be just that. Not always. Depends what you do when you travel.
Well, okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that mind-expanding episode of Field Notes. Love doing Field Notes episodes with you, Michael. Always fun. You can join us again next week. We're back on Tuesday with our usual episodes and another podcast expedition on Thursday next week. If you've got any questions you'd like us to answer, make sure you send them in to us. The rest is science at goalhanger.com.
And you can join our newsletter at therestis.com/science.
See you next week.
See you next week. Thank you for spending some of your slice with us. Hello and welcome to The Rest is Science. Merry Christmas. This is Field Notes, a show where we do some little exploring of objects, of ideas, of questions.
I never felt more festive in my life than when you just said Merry Christmas then, Michael. That was jingling all the way.
I'm slowly becoming Santa Claus, if you can't tell.
slowly, year by year, one grey hair at a time. This is the show where every week we're going to bring in something, we're going to chat about it. So it's sort of like The Rest is Science's very own version of show and tell. That's what we bring you once a week, every Thursday.
Yeah, that's right. We're sort of building up a nice little library of curiosities, both mental and physical.
So, to add to those curiosities, we would also like your questions, your theories, your thought experiments, whatever you want to send us, really. You can send them in to our email, therestiscience@goalhanger.com, and we'll dust off a shelf in our infinite library of curiosities,
and we'll add you to it. Later in the episode, I am going to be showing off the object that I have brought, and today my object is your body, Hannah.
How dare you?
And it's also you, the listener's body. It's all of our bodies. We're going to do some tactile stuff. But first, I want to start with questions from you all, the listeners out there. I want to begin with a question from Rowan because it's just so perfectly like festive.
Because it is Christmas Day. This is coming out on Christmas Day, right? I mean, we're recording this a couple of days.
I mean, it is Christmas Day.
We're cheating. We're warping time.
Is this show not live?
You are listening to a future version of yourself, Michael. That's what you're doing.
I wonder what I'll be like. Rowan asks, Why do Christmas trees smell the way they do? Is there an evolutionary reason for producing those chemicals?
Absolutely there is, Rowan. And it's not to make you feel more festive. I should just say, in advance of this, I decided finally last year to switch to an artificial tree. Are you an artificial tree or a...
Yeah, I'm an artificial tree guy. I'm not against cutting down trees, but I feel bad personally. Like, it's on my conscience. I know we've got a lot of trees. I know that they can be sustainably grown. You know, I'm not anti-live trees.
There's a trillion of them, Michael. There's a lot. That's okay.
There are more trees on Earth than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy.
There genuinely are. There's so many trees in London that technically it counts as a forest.
Really?
That's absolutely true, yeah.
And that's not to say let's all go, like, cull the trees. But for me, the artificial tree, we get them with the lights already installed and like a whole remote, and you can choose different colors based on your mood, and they're much easier to put up, less mess, and you can customize them so much. Like, we have one that's covered in fake snow.
Do you? That's very 1980s of you.
I think that if you're going to go artificial, you should go really far artificial, like pink tinsel. We've got a gold tinsel tree, and that actually we still haven't moved here, so we had to pick up this snow-covered one.
The more fake, the better. So I really resisted getting a fake tree out because there's something about the smell of Christmas trees that just really sort of brings it home for me. And actually, last year I did the calculations and the environmental impact essentially of having a plastic tree as opposed to cutting one down every year. And essentially, if you have it for your whole life, if you keep the plastic tree forever, then you know, environmentally you're doing all right. It's better than cutting them down every year. But I miss the smell of trees so much that I now also have artificial tree scent that I spray on the tree.
Wait, a spray that you put on the tree?
Yeah.
Is it built for that purpose? Like, is that why they sell it?
It is. It's a tree spray.
And it's good.
I mean, it's very sickly. It's nowhere near as good as the real thing, but it sort of like scratches the little itch, because this particular smell that trees are producing, it's a terpene. It's a particular type of molecule that is released by plants. In particular, the one you get from Christmas trees is called pinene. And as warm and cozy and comforting as it feels to humans, it's basically the smell of fear, Michael. That's essentially what we're smelling. This episode is brought to you by Cancer Research UK.
Dinosaurs walked the Earth 180 million years ago. But did you know cancer was part of their story too? Scientists have found tumors in ancient fossils.
Well, that is a part of the reason why cancer is a big part of our story, right? It's the other side of evolution. It's the most complex disease that we face. There are more than 200 types of cancer in total, each with distinct characteristics, challenges, and mysteries.
And that complexity demands scale. Cancer Research UK is the world's largest charitable funder of cancer research, with more than 4,000 scientists, doctors, and nurses working across more than 20 countries in the search for answers, and then sharing their discoveries beyond borders.
And the impact of this collaboration is clear, because over the last 50 years, the charity's pioneering work has helped to double cancer survival in the UK. That is, more people who are living longer, better lives.
Fossils can show us the past, but research is shaping the future. And for more information about Cancer Research UK, their research, breakthroughs, and how you can support them, visit cancerresearchuk.org/rest is science.
It's the tree experiencing some analog of fear and releasing that smell.
Some tree version of fear. That's what's all warm and cozy.
Oh no. Why do they release it to communicate to other trees, or is it an accidental emission while they're being harmed or something?
Well, I don't think it's accidental. I mean, I think it serves a very distinct purpose. So terpenes, this molecule is toxic, or at the very least, it's sort of very deeply unpleasant to lots of insects and fungi. So, you know, if you're a bark beetle or you know, a pine tree doesn't smell like Christmas, it smells like chemical warfare. It's sort of, you don't want to be anywhere near that. Very, very nasty. The other thing that it does is it's a damage response. So if you snap a branch or you crush some needles, then the tree releases more of those chemicals. And there is an idea that actually trees are able to communicate with one another using these types of chemical. But essentially what you're doing then is you're sort of smelling the tree screaming.
Yeah.
That's
I was gonna say it's a wonderful festive smell, but it's the scream of a tree.
scream of a tree.
This reminds us of our discussion of AI and how if they become suitably advanced, like way beyond us, they might also love our screams and feel that they're festive. And on their Christmas, they'll torture us and they'll say, ooh, it just feels like Christmas when you've got Michael in the corner going, please no!
There, crush it into a bottle and spritz it around the room, shall we?
This also makes me wonder if trees will, given enough time and no intervention from us, evolve away from emitting those, because we won't be cutting down the trees that don't have the smell, and so through natural selection they will lose their wonderful festive Christmas evergreen scent.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a very long time to have that sort of evolutionary pressure. There is one more reason why trees release that particular molecule, and I wonder if you can guess it. So I'll give you a little clue.
Wait, don't give me a clue. Let's see what I come up with.
Go on.
There's another reason.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess it could help.
It's not about the smell of it. It's about something.
It's not
that
about
it
the
does.
smell, sure. So is it about like healing the wound, like covering it up and making it waterproof or something? No,
but it is oily. You're right. It's got one other property. It's very flammable.
Why would they want to become flammable when scared? Okay, here's my guess.
Yeah, go on.
It's flammable in a way that causes the flame to go fast and not as hot as if it burned the wood.
Oh, interesting.
So the fire spreads and doesn't like destroy the tree more deeply.
You're totally correct. Because this is the thing, right? Why would you want a forest to be flammable? It feels really counterintuitive. But the thing is that actually, if you have a low-level fire in a forest, one that is very quick and runs through, then it will just clear out like competition. All of the saplings are gone. It will also clear out loads of parasites. But then you've got these kind of these pine trees which have really got thick barks. They've got they're conifers, right? They're there to survive, and they can survive a low-level fire and then essentially reclaim the land. So in evolutionary terms, being a little bit explodey is actually quite a good long-term strategy.
I think that's a good life lesson.
Hey, my life motto: be a little bit fiery.
That's really cool because, yeah, we've all seen after conflagrations in cities that many times the trees are still standing.
The other thing I like about this is that not only are the trees evolved to have that particular scent, but I think that humans are also evolved to find it appealing. Because if you think about, hunter-gatherer humans, right, really ancient humans, the smell of pine, it means shelter, it means food, it means that you haven't got these biting insects around. And okay, maybe it's sort of gone on to mean something much more festive, but actually I think it does ignite something in us too, which is like this deep evolutionary need for our basic survival to be met, which you can do in a forest very easily.
Yeah, it really is literally the smell of safety.
Yeah, and screams.
That's wonderful.
Good, huh? Yeah. Merry Christmas. Okay, another question. One for you, Michael. This one came in from Sam. Sam said, I once met a boy called Xenon. Amazing name. What element do you think is the best name to call a person?
Ooh, well, Xenon, or as I would say, Xenon. That's
Xenon.
a great name.
Sure.
It's like sci-fi. You get to use the letter X, which is underutilized by our language and our naming systems. Okay, so first of all, there are some elements that are already named after people. Einsteinium, curium. There's that. There's some cool names like, okay, if I met someone named Tungsten, I might roll my eyes. I shouldn't be judgmental though, because there's probably someone named Tungsten listening who's going to be either an angry commenter or just to have a really sad day by what I just said.
If you were called Tungsten, though, you'd have to be really careful not to be too heavy, wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah, right, because people would always say, oh, geez, tungsten is so dense. Like, dude, open your mind. Carbon, hydrogen, tin? Like
Tin?
Rin Tin Tin?
Yeah, that would be quite good.
We need to name some more elements. I know there are some that are still called, like, they don't have final names. And I'm going to suggest that we name another one after a person. Specifically, I want a new element to be called John Quincium.
Go on.
Because the letters J and Q are not used in the periodic table.
There's no Q at all.
There's no Q and there's no J.
Wow.
At all.
That feels like a great oversight.
And so if we could fix that in one fell swoop by naming an element after John Quincy Adams. Now this is a very like American-centric answer, but I'm sure we could find a JQ person, somewhere else in the world. But the point is, let's get some J's and Q's in there, and then the whole alphabet will be represented.
I'm going to give you a more British-centric answer.
Good.
Because I think that actually some of the names in the periodic table work very well already as names, just as long as you're willing to include a regional accent. Helium, right?
Yeah. Oh wait, like Liam.
Yeah, like, hey, Liam.
He Liam.
If you're very northern, you know what I mean? Hey, Liam. There you go.
Okay.
Already works. Also, in Yorkshire, people say like, oh, our Jim, or our Karen, or Argon.
Argon. Not Yorgon. Argon.
Still works. I think periodic table as British regional accent pet names, I think we're already there.
I think we've already. I don't think we even need the regional accents. Like Indian is kind of a beautiful name.
Yeah. Didn't appear on the list when it came to naming your daughter, though, no?
No, it didn't. I think you got to choose something that almost doesn't sound like an element. There's so many of those in the early stages of the periodic table. Eventually, they all just become iums. But carbon, no, not a great name.
Chlorine, little baby chlorine.
Chlorine, like Carolyn, but more elemental.
Boron.
Oh, neon. I think neon is like going to be up there. Xenon as well. Those are both great.
Yeah.
Krypton, too like kryptonite sounding.
Thorium.
Oh, that's like a big, strong name.
Isn't it? Very Nordic.
Yeah, it's Nordic. It's Thor, but chemical. Thorium.
Thorium. That could be a Marvel villain. That's what I want to see. That as a Marvel villain.
Zinc. Zinc is like Zeke. All right,
Yeah.
I'm tapped out. I think we've touched on the ones that we recommend to parents.
That's fine. I actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I recommend any of those to parents, but nonetheless, parents of baby Zenon, congratulations on extending your family.
Yeah, you guys chose one of the best.
Right. Well, I think what we've decided there is that our naming abilities expired after the birth of our own separate children.
Yeah.
But hey, we've got more coming up for you. It's Christmas. Pour yourself another sherry, have another mince pie, and come back after the break when Michael's got a gift for us.
Welcome back. In the Christmas spirit, I'm feeling very generous, and I wanted to bestow upon everyone some tactile illusions. These should be good for those who are only listening. I think we've done a lot of visual stuff in some of these episodes, and so I wanted to do one where we can all follow along using our own bodies. So I think we should start with the tongue. Are you ready, Hannah?
Absolutely.
Can you twist your tongue upside down?
Allow me to try. Not with ease, but yes.
Can you see what I'm doing? I'm literally just twisting my tongue over so that the bottom of my tongue is pointing as up as I can get it.
Yeah, I'm there. It's difficult to... What I've noticed is that even though this is an audio-only illusion, it's quite difficult to narrate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that twisting your tongue over, like that's literally what we're doing. And if you can do it with your tongue muscle, great. If not, you can reach into your mouth, grab your tongue, and just twist it 180 degrees. It won't hurt. It's a safe thing to do. I find that once I twist it, I need to like bite down a little bit with my teeth or even lips to just keep it there. But once you've done that, reach out your finger and touch the tip of your tongue and slide along the tip left to right.
Oh, that feels weird.
Uh-huh.
Not weird from my finger's perspective, but from the perspective of my tongue.
Yeah, no, it's very normal for my finger. I think I'm touching tongue-like stuff all the time. But my tongue feels strange. There's actually an illusion happening here, which is that you can't locate which side of your tongue is being touched.
Sorry, everyone just now has to sit quietly for a moment while I just try and poke my tongue.
We're both touching our tongues, so we can't speak, but you should be doing this too.
That's so strange though, because if you hold your tongue in an ordinary position and lift it up and touch underneath, then it's like, okay, yeah, that's the underside of my tongue. But turn your tongue over so that it sort of physically appears where the top of your tongue previously would, and then you can't tell.
You can't tell. And specifically what's happening, what you should be feeling is that when you touch the left side of your tongue, it feels like your finger is over on the right side of your mouth, touching your tongue from the other side. It's quite bewildering because you know where your finger is. But yet your brain is so unaccustomed to upside down tongue touching that it has not learned, it hasn't retained plasticity there. So it just goes, okay, look, when those cells are touched, it's coming from the right side. But if I put the right side on the left by flipping my tongue over, it all goes wrong.
Like you have a map of your body in your head, and this is off the map.
It's off the map, and it's almost more weird than that because it's a map of sensation. So it shows that we feel things, and then our brain receives that, and then it projects it onto an experience of the world, and it says, yep, there's a finger on the right side, even if you're on the left. So there's like this stage play going on in your head that is everything out there. And you can actually see the difference between the two by doing this with your tongue. You can also do it with your fingers. If you take your middle and pointer finger and just cross them like as much as you can. For me, that means putting the pointer under the middle finger. I've just crossed them as much as I can.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Wow. Look at your finger flexibility.
I mean, thanks so much.
Once you've done this, touch an object. A marble is great, but a pen, a pencil, anything that's kind of rounded, put it right in between where the fingers cross. So what you're touching with is actually what used to be the outside edges of both fingers, the edges that are away from the center of the fingers. But now you've put that in the middle and they're touching one object.
Okay, I'm going for a coin.
Oh, you've got a coin might do it. Yeah, touch the curved side of the coin. And you might want to try crossing them less or more, but it should feel like there's actually two objects there. It works best if you don't look. Even closing your eyes, touching the edge of a table can do it. As normally, if you put your two fingers together, your middle and pointer together, their outside edges are going to be touching different objects almost all the time. But when you cross them, so their outsides are together, your brain goes, oh, wait, they're both getting a sensation. It must be two different objects. And this was discovered thousands of years ago. Aristotle was the first known person to write about it, so it's called Aristotle's illusion. And it's very fun to cross your fingers and just touch things, different textures, different sized objects, and do it with your eyes closed and picture what you're feeling. It feels like two very separate things when it's really just one.
This makes no sense. This makes no sense whatsoever. In terms of, it's like that feeling when you're, I don't know, stepping off an escalator that isn't moving, and your brain is making this prediction about what it's supposed to happen, and then your actual experience doesn't match up with it. The one which I remember from being a child, I don't know whether you played this one in the playgrounds of Kansas, but is where you expose your forearm. What you do is you ask another person to expose their forearm, have their eyes closed, and then you start to just very, very gently tickle the sort of underside of their wrist.
1st, 1939, German troops thrust deep into Poland to win a swift and absolute victory. Barely 20 years earlier, their forefathers had also been on the march, back into their homeland as a defeated army. In November 1918, after 4 years of World War I, Germany's Emperor, Kaiser Wilhelm II, had been forced to abdicate. His armies were being ground down by a remorseless offensive by British, French, and US troops. His people faced starvation. But already, a dangerous myth was taking root. The German generals and troops claimed that they hadn't been defeated in battle, but betrayed by their own cowardly politicians. Even so, at 11 in the morning on November the 11th, 1918, the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, World War I came to an end. The following month, President Woodrow Wilson of the United States arrived in Europe, promising to create a new world order. He persuaded the world's leaders to sign up to a new League of Nations. At the Treaty of Versailles, they agreed that from now on, disputes between countries would be resolved not by fighting, but by debate. The peoples of Europe were safe. Germany's ally, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, was dismembered. Out of it, new nations were created. Austria, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Germany itself was greatly reduced in size. But this process contained a time bomb. Not everyone celebrated the birth of countries like Czechoslovakia. Several of them contained substantial German minorities. One day, the desire to reunite the German peoples would come to haunt Europe. The war-torn German people also had one final indignity inflicted on them. They were forced to pay a massive £6.6 billion in reparations to France and Britain, something they could ill afford. And when he returned to America, Wilson's New World Order immediately fell apart. The US Congress decided it could not risk being sucked into another war. It refused to join his league, and the US withdrew into isolation. Germany was now a very different nation. It was still Europe's biggest country, but its militaristic monarchy had gone. It had become a democracy. But its government, the so-called Weimar Republic, was soon struck by a series of hammer blows. Street battles erupted between extreme right-wing nationalists and communists trying to start a revolution. Then, in 1923, the country was devastated by hyperinflation, which reached hundreds of percent a month. Ordinary people's savings were wiped out. This was fertile ground for a new breed of rabble-rousing right-wing politicians. Among them, Adolf Hitler. Hitler had been born in Austria, and fought bravely as a soldier in World War I, and had been awarded the Iron Cross. On returning to Germany, he settled in Munich, and his fiery oratory soon enabled him to seize control of the small National Socialist or Nazi Party. In October 1923, Hitler and his henchmen attempted an armed coup against the Weimar government. It failed. He was sentenced to 9 months. In prison, he wrote a book, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, in which he blamed Germany's ills on the Jews and demanded that it rebuild its strength and seek new territories in the East. On his release, he set about building the Nazis into a proper, disciplined political party. From now on, he would use the democratic system to achieve power. But for the next 5 years, Weimar Germany prospered. Support for extremist parties, left and right, dwindled. Then suddenly, Hitler's opportunity arrived. In October 1929, the US stock market crashed. Billions of dollars were lost, and an economic depression swept across the world. Unemployment in Germany soared to over 6 million. Only extremist politicians seemed to offer a solution.
Wir haben ein Ziel uns gewählt und was besseres verstanden.
Politicians like Hitler. By 1931, his Nazis were a true mass movement. And they had their own brown-shirted thugs, SA stormtroops, who numbered almost 3 million. In the 1932 elections, the Nazis became the largest party in Germany's parliament, the Reichstag. But Hitler refused to join the coalition, leaving parliament paralyzed. To break the impasse, President Hindenburg made him chancellor in January 1933, head of the government. Within a month, the Reichstag burned down. Hitler accused the communists and demanded emergency powers. He then used them to ban all other political parties. In August 1934, President Hindenburg died. Hitler declared himself president. He was now absolutely the Führer of Germany. At first, there was little sign of what was to come. For the next 3 years, the Führer concentrated on rebuilding Germany's economy. He spent millions on public works, including the 5,000-mile autobahn system, to soak up the unemployed. But in secret, Hitler was also spending lavishly on a huge rearmament program. Under the Versailles Treaty, the German army had been limited to 100,000 men. The country was forbidden to have an air force, tanks, or submarines. This small army was trembling in size. Then, in 1935, Hitler came out of it. He unveiled a brand new air force, the Luftwaffe. It had 2,500 planes, far more than Britain or France. Unemployment plunged, and the Nazis became enormously popular. Now emboldened, the Führer made his first expansionist move. In 1935, he reoccupied the Saarland district on the French border, after it voted to return from League of Nations to Germany. A year later, he sent German troops into the Rhineland, part of Germany which had been demilitarized at Versailles. At the time, many felt that Hitler was only claiming back what was rightfully Germany's. Neither Britain nor France objected. Berlin hosted the 1936 Olympic Games, the Nazis were seen by many as firm but firm. A government which was restoring the nation's pride and which didn't threaten anyone. Of course, there were signs. The 1935 Nuremberg laws forbade Jews to marry true Aryan Germans and deprived them of their citizenship. When the first threats came to world peace, they didn't come from Hitler at all, but from somewhere else entirely. defeated Russia in a war in 1905, and he had fought alongside the Allies in World War I. After the war, Japan was an acknowledged world power, and it signed up to the League of Nations. But politically, it was a mess of contradictions. Nominally a democracy, the feudal tradition was still strong. Most Japanese revered their emperor as a living god and regarded him as their true leader. And the country faced major economic problems. Its population was exploding. And it had no natural resources to fuel its rapidly expanding industries. Its leaders needed solutions. They saw them in Chinese Manchuria. Manchuria was a land of rich grain fields, plenty of coal and minerals. It was a perfect target. Japanese troops were already stationed there. Other possible targets were the colonies ruled by the European powers. Burma, Malaya, and Hong Kong, controlled by Britain. Indochina, ruled by France, and the Dutch East Indies. But at this stage, Japan had to be cautious. They didn't want to rouse the other great power in the Pacific. The United States. For all its anti-imperialist slogans, the US actually ran an unofficial empire in the Pacific. The Philippines, Guam, and several islands were under its direct rule. It undoubtedly had the strength to take on Japan. Since the end of World War I, it had had other distractions. This was America's jazz age. Throughout the 1920s, the nation concentrated on exploiting its vast resources. It was an economic boom that seemed without end. Fortunes were made both in industry and the stock markets. America seemed lost to the increasing pursuit of pleasure. With distractions like these, Japan's growing pains in the Pacific seemed very far away. America had slashed its army after World War I and agreed a naval reduction treaty with Britain, France, and Japan. This, in effect, handed naval superiority in the Pacific to the Japanese. And then came the Great Depression. As the economic devastation spread, a quarter of the population lost their jobs. Tens of thousands were made homeless, living in shantytowns. Whereas before it had been distracted by pleasure, now America was distracted by pain. It was time for Japan to make her mark. In 1931, without even informing their own elected government, the Japanese forces in Manchuria seized the capital Mukden and then overran the rest of the territory. A puppet state, Manchu Kuo, was proclaimed under a puppet ruler. Henry Puyi, the last emperor of China, who had been deposed in 1911, was dragged out of retirement. Its headquarters in Geneva, the League of Nations now faced its first great test. Japan was universally condemned. But her response was blunt.
Japan, however, finds it impossible to accept the report adopted by the Assembly.
The Japanese then just walked out, and the League suddenly realized there was nothing it could do about Manchuria. Japan was declared an international pariah, but it didn't care. its leaders had turned their eyes to further conquests in China. These were easy pickings. China was in a state of chaos. The government of Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek was locked in conflict with the Chinese Communist Party under Mao Zedong. There was civil war. In 1936, as a precursor to invasion, the Japanese signed a pact with Hitler. The aim was to guard against any attack by Soviet Russia were it to move on China. Then in July 1937, the Japanese provoked an incident with Chinese troops and invaded. At first, the Chinese were taken by surprise. But they soon fought back fiercely, the Communists even joining the Kuomintang in a united front. The Japanese responded with amphibious landings. By the end of 1937, they had overrun much of northern China and the coast. The Japanese fought this war with exceptional brutality, bombing cities indiscriminately. Westerners living in the commercial center, the port of Shanghai, were now evacuated. The city was then besieged for 3 months. Widespread damage, the Japanese forces showing no pity or concern for the native population. But it was after the capture of Nanking, then the Chinese capital, on December the 17th, 1937, that the Japanese forces really rallied. Over 300,000 civilians are estimated to have been massacred during a 6-week orgy of rape and indiscriminate killing. The Japanese even attacked British and US warships which had been sent to protect their shipping and trade. The worst incident came on December the 12th, 1937. The American gunboat Panay was sunk by Japanese bombers. 50 crewmen died. Despite this, the Western powers refused to intervene. So the League of Nations could do nothing. In the United States, President Roosevelt wanted to impose a naval blockade of Japan.
It has become clear that acts and policies of nations in other parts of the world have far-reaching effects on us.
But the British would have none of it, fearing that it might provoke a war. So all Roosevelt could offer was a $25 million loan to Chiang Kai-shek to buy arms. Even though the Communists were now fighting alongside the Kuomintang, the Soviet Union did little to help either. Its only involvement was a series of clashes along its own border with Manchuria. But China itself received nothing. Instead, it had to fight on alone. During 1938, the Japanese overran Canton and pushed the Chinese forces deeper into the west of the country. All the rhetoric of the League of Nations, all those promises to stop international aggression had come to nothing. And by now, the Western powers were facing aggression much closer to home.
Spiriti che sorgono e che nascono e i principi che declinano, la vittoria è per noi, per i primi.
Today,